As a person, I tend to engage in more Buddhist philosophical leanings. I am an agnostic. I would be an atheist, but I think that there is a chance of, like, small chances of different kinds of gods. I don't think organized religions are probably very accurate. But a lot of Buddhist philosophy rests around accepting what is, living in the moment, sort of it's just sort of like a state of mind that I really subscribe to. And at the same time, I'm kind of the opposite of that. I don't know if it's my personality type, but I suppose it is. I'm very ambitious. I live in the future a lot, and I'm kind of the opposite of the, like, acceptance, sort of not letting things phase you and taking things as they are, not judging things a lot. Like, I'm kind of the opposite of that type. So, like, idealistically and logically, like, I think that Buddhist philosophy makes sense a lot, but it's kind of a contradiction that my personality type isn't really that in itself. So that's just sort of a paradox that I've had to deal with, and at first I tried to fight it a lot and tried to cover up my weaknesses, but I'm starting to realize more that I should be playing to my strengths. And so while I agree with the Buddhist philosophies, I'm still going to try to go out in the world and do as much as possible. Speaking of which, the ENTJs are known for having the best space-time awareness of all the types. We're very good at organizing, and that's something I've definitely found true of myself. Like, when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, they'll kind of talk and say, like, oh, we'll go here and then go there, and then, like, we'll meet up and do this, and then I'll just kind of, like, rearrange the whole plan, and they get annoyed that I'll, like, spend time planning or getting all this data, and in the end it saves a lot of time, but to them, like, it's overthinking, over planning, or they fail to see that, like, more time would be saved through this planning process than through just kind of doing things. And so I tend to be, like, a very efficient, a little bit rushed and impatient person in how much I try to accomplish and just operate on a daily basis. Like, I don't spend that much time in the bathroom. I, like, brush my teeth quickly, take quick showers, and so that's just kind of something I have to deal with people. So I guess I'll kind of start a little bit at the beginning. As a kid, I'd say I was a very, very strong ENTJ, and I exhibited, like, pretty much the archetypical behaviors. I was extremely, extremely outgoing. I was, like, very forceful. I'd, like, wrestle with adults. Like, I didn't really view them as superiors so much as, like, equals or playmates. And I'd be very engaged with people. I was very unshy, and I'd do very outgoing things. I took a great interest in a great grandfather of mine who was Ataturk's mentor, and he helped overthrow the Ottoman Empire, and he was, like, one of the head generals of the Ottoman Empire, and he helped found modern-day Turkey. So as a child, I think that was, like, a big inspiration for me. And I don't know if I chose that kind of as a symbol, given my personality type, or just having that early childhood thought is what sort of influenced my development into the ENTJ personality type. But it's just something that has always been true for me, and it's sort of led me to, like, always think of myself as, like, sort of like a general or a president or some sort of, like one of those roles that I need to aspire towards, just from being so ambitious as a young person. And these sorts of things started coming out, like, at a very young age. Like, I started a club when I was in kindergarten, and I don't even really know much of what the purpose was. It was just a club, and then there were a couple twins in my class that, like, were in another club, or their sister's club, and they didn't want to join it. So, like, our clubs were, like, at war, and I'd have friends, and we'd go and we'd, like, run laps around tennis courts and hold our breath underwater and, like, build forts and train with sticks, and we'd constantly be, like, really engaged in, like, physical exercise, skill building, and, like, we were just, like, kindergartners, like, taking this very seriously, as if, like, one day we were going to go to war with these people that we'd never really actually interact with. And I think that's absolutely speaks to the field marshal type, where even as, like, a really small child, I was totally engaged in these sort of, like, really out there, like, serious pursuits, but that were actually very fun, and, like, we didn't really think of them as work, and we enjoyed playing with them, but it just kind of over the long run just led to a certain sort of militarism without being, like necessarily full of hate or anything like that. So these sorts of things, I guess, snowballed into other sorts of pursuits. Always been the type of person that likes to start things, and I'm very good at inspiring people, and I get really passionate about stuff, and the way I talk about them and my ability to communicate things tends to make other people want to jump on board. I started airsofting in middle school, and that's a kind of like, it's like paintball, but you use, like, real guns, not real guns, but real looking guns, and they shoot, like, BBs, and it's kind of like a military war sport, and, like, at the time it's a very advanced activity for young people, but it was, like, something I got, like, 20, 30 people to do, and we'd all run around and, like, shoot each other, and, like, I was kind of, like, the main driving force or organizer behind it. I used to play this massively multiplayer game called PlanetSide, and that was in middle school too, and I co-founded this, like, an outfit, which is kind of like a guild, and what would be WoW, and that was probably the most fun I ever had playing games, because there'd be like 140 of us in this group, and it's like a first person shooter, and it's like we'd be out there and like we'd all have our mics on, and we'd be like talking and like organizing. We'd have squads. There'd be tons of objectives, taking over bases and stuff. Like, and I liked that it was persistent. There was a lot more room for strategy than typical first-person shooters. And they're also coming out with the second one now, like many years later, that I'm really excited for, and it's finally going to be something I think that's really going to thrust me back into gaming, even though I've been gaming since then. It's gonna, I think, finally get me like to start organizing myself with people more and get a lot more out of it.